Hello. So today we are joined by Tim Brown. Tim is the Chief Communications and Marketing Officer at Stony Brook Medicine, where he leads the team for communications, marketing, creative services, and the digital team. Prior to Stony Brook, Tim was a news anchor and Director of Development at the Salvation Army. And he's also held communications roles at Via Christi Health and the University of Chicago Medicine.
Because I'm a big proponent of brand journalism and content marketing. I think it's so critical in healthcare marketing to really get the story out, tell the story yourself on your own platforms, and control the narrative, quite frankly, that way. This is the beauty of marketing and communications in healthcare. You're not really selling a thing, but you are selling or telling people about something that's potentially life-changing for them. I remember talking with patient's mother, and this patient's mother was telling me about how they had actually seen some of the work that we had produced online, and it led to them bringing their daughter to Health Institute, the health center that we worked at, and their daughter's life was saved. One of the things that I learned really quickly is you have to get buy-in from people, and particularly in healthcare, we're such a heavily regulated industry, one of the most regulated industries. You have to be very, very careful when it comes to high-level decision-making to make sure that everybody's aware of what those decisions are, and you have buy-in from the top. The one thing I very quickly learned is these are all really, really smart people. They're all brilliant people. So they may not be marketing experts, but they're very, very smart. So you may have 100 people giving you suggestions and ideas. You can't do everything each one of them is asking of you, but you can take a little bit from each one and you can learn a lot. And I think that's key to being successful in a position like that. We have marketing communications, obviously, on the university side, and there are people in Stony Brook Health that did marketing communications, but they primarily reported up the university side, which some health systems do it that way. Most do not on an academic side. There is kind of a little bit of a divide, so I actually report to both sides. I report to the health system side and I report to the university side. Healthcare is a much more aggressive and competitive landscape than it ever has been. AMCs didn't used to really, in the old days, they didn't really have to compete because they were AMCs, but those days are gone. Part of what I think most academic health systems are doing now, or trying to do now, is become that one-stop shop. But depending on service line, for example, cancer versus neuro versus cardiovascular versus orthopedics, you have different targets, kind of different audiences and age groups, and that are the primary targets. So you may skew very, very strongly in more traditional marketing, TV and print, in one area where maybe your audience is potentially a little bit older, whereas you're going heavily in social and digital in another area. Those are the big things. Build out the team, restructure it a bit, and really get the web humming, and that we're looking at some other opportunities beyond that.
You mentioned that you do have an AOR right now. Tell us a little bit about what do they do for you versus what do you do in-house?
So they do a lot of our analytics and kind of our overall creatives, and they help us a lot with our media placement. One of the things that they kind of have in place here, and I think we'll hopefully build it up a little bit, is kind of a mini internal agency where we can do some of the creative work internally. We have 4 designers, for example, right now. We have a photographer, and they're all really talented people. So we kind of have that mini internal creative aspect, but for some of the heavy lifting and the work that I just described, particularly when you look at benchmarking, comparing us to our competitors in the market, they're invaluable with that help. If you're going to spend the kind of money that you're going to spend with an agency, you want somebody that's going to really blow it out of the water when it comes to creativity, the collateral that they can provide to you. Healthcare advertising kind of looks like healthcare advertising, and so it's hard to really set yourself apart and differentiate. So if you can find an agency that is creative and can do some of that work and make you look a little different, stand out, you've struck gold, and that's good. But the other aspect that I mentioned earlier, I really like to be able to look to an agency for some of that kind of that intel, the numbers that they can provide, benchmarking against your competitors in the market. That's really important. Healthcare is such an I think we're kind of an oddball when it comes to marketing a lot of times, and we're also so heavily regulated. So to me, it's pretty important that they have some healthcare experience.
What about location? Is it also important that they have a presence, near your region?
First of all, if you're doing face-to-face meetings, it makes it a lot easier, obviously, having to get on an airplane, or them having to get on an airplane, a lot cheaper too. And they do tend to maybe know the market a little bit better, but there are some very specialty boutique agencies that are located far away that really zero in maybe on exactly what you're looking for, and if it works for you, with technology now, just like you and I are doing, you don't have to be sitting in the same office all the time. There are a lot of different people that will have a lot of great ideas, and you can't be everything to everybody. but you need to be willing to listen. And you need to really be kind of open to thoughts from people that maybe aren't necessarily marketing folks, maybe don't necessarily work in your area, but are smart people. And, you'd be humbled occasionally along the way, but that's not necessarily a bad thing either.